I came home early on a Thursday and caught my sister emptying my safe. She didn't hear me pull into the garage. My truck's old and quiet, and I'd learned to kill the engine before the door finished closing. Force of habit from years of sneaking in late after jobs ran long that I walked through the mudroom, kicked off my boots, and heard the click from my study. Not a mouse. Not the house settling. That was the tumbler on my wall safe that the door was open 2 inches. I put my eye to the crack and watched Erin crouch there, her hands shaking, feeding stacks of cash into a canvas tote. $15,000. Then my property deeds. Then my business incorporation papers. The folder with my will. The velvet box with my grandmother's ring. I stood frozen in the hallway, my own sister gutting my life in front of me. She pulled out her phone and hit speaker. "Did you get it?" Tom's voice came through, cold and calm. "Almost. I've got the cash and the deeds. I need another day for the business accounts." "Good. How much cash?" "About 15. Maybe more." "That'll cover the first payment," Tom said. "Once we get the house signed over, we flip it and split the equity. Florida by Christmas." "What about Dennis?" "What about him?" Tom laughed. "By the time he figures it out, we'll be gone. He won't prove anything. Your name's on the guest room lease. You're a resident now. You've got rights." Erin nodded to no one. "I hate doing this to him. He's my brother. He's a mark, Erin. Rich, soft, stupid. Easiest money we'll ever make." I backed away from the door. My legs were rubber. I went to the garage, sat in my truck, and stared at the wall for 5 full minutes. My sister. My baby sister. The one I'd taught to ride a bike. The one I'd protected from every bully in high school. But she was robbing me blind that I wanted to storm back in and grab her by the throat. I wanted to scream until my voice gave out. But I'm a contractor. I know you don't tear down a wall until you know what's behind it. So I sat there, breathing deep, until my hands stopped shaking. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. "Mark, it's Dennis. I need a private investigator. Discreet. Expensive, if necessary." Then I drove around for an hour to kill time. When I walked back in, I jingled my keys and called out. Job got canceled. Permits fell through. Erin was in the kitchen making a salad. She smiled like she hadn't just robbed me. "Early day, yeah. What are you making?" "Just a light dinner. Claire'll be tired after her class." "How's your arm?" I asked. She looked down at the fading bruise. "Better. Doesn't hurt much anymore." "Good. I'm glad." 2 liars in a kitchen full of sunlight. Over the next 2 days, I played the fool. I smiled. I let her borrow my truck. I even gave her a spare key when she said she'd locked herself out. Each gesture felt like swallowing glass. But I did it. The private investigator, Walt, was a retired cop with a mean face and sharper instincts. We met at a diner off I-35. I showed him the video I'd recorded through the door crack. He watched it twice, then nodded. "Good start. But it's not enough. You need proof Tom's involved. You need them to commit on record." How Walt leaned back and grinned. "You let me do my job, but you're going to have to keep playing dummy a little longer." I hated it, but I agreed that Walt followed her for 3 days. He saw her meet Tom at a motel. He photographed them reviewing documents together. He recorded their conversations in the parking lot. "She's still in love with him," Walt told me on the phone. "This was her idea. She's the one who found out about your assets. She told him about the safe." "How do you know?" "I planted a pin in your study. She's been writing down your combinations and account numbers. Got copies of everything." My stomach turned. That cheap black pin sitting on my desk. I'd almost thrown it out a dozen times. "She's been planning this for months," Walt said. "Way before she called you that night. They've got shell accounts in another state. They're flying out the day after she transfers your business. To Florida, then Costa Rica. They're not just taking your money, Dennis. They're disappearing." I hung up and walked to the guest room. Erin was on her laptop, shopping for flights. "Hey, Denny," she said without looking up. "Mind if I borrow your car later? Mine's making a noise." "Sure. Take the truck." "Thanks." She smiled. "You're the best brother in the world." She had no idea what was coming. I called Claire that night and told her I needed her out of the house Saturday afternoon. I was planning a surprise weekend trip. She bought it. Claire always believed the best in people. That's what I loved about her. And that's what Erin had exploited without hesitation. That I called the sheriff's department and had them on standby. I told Walt to have his evidence ready. I told Mark to draft the legal complaints. Then I went to my garage and found my oldest jacket. I hung it in the hall closet where Erin would see it. Inside the pocket, I put a cheap decoy ring. The one I'd swapped for my grandmother's real ring days ago, just in case she got nosy that Saturday morning came. Claire left at 9 for her sister's place. I told her I'd pick her up at 5 that Erin walked into the kitchen in her robe, yawning. What do you want to do today? Got paperwork, I said. Go enjoy yourself. I might run some errands. Take the truck. She left at 10. I watched her turn toward the highway. I called Walt. She's moving. Got her on the tracker. She's going to meet Tom. They'll come back together when they think the house is empty. Be ready. I've been ready for 3 days. 2 hours later, I heard the truck pull back in. 2 doors closed. 2 sets of footsteps on gravel. The front door opened. Erin walked in first, flushed and excited. Tom followed her, carrying a leather bag. He looked exactly as I remembered. Too clean, too polished, that smile that never reached his eyes. See, Erin said. I told you he'd be at work. He's always at work, Tom said. That's why he's got so much money. They didn't see me. My recliner faced away from the door. I watched their reflections in the TV screen. Everything's ready, Erin said. I've got the deeds, cash, account numbers. Just need the business transfer forms. They're in his office. Go get them. She walked toward the study. Tom set down his bag and started looking around, touching things. He picked up a framed photo of Claire and me from our honeymoon. Looked at it. Laughed. Poor bastard, he said. I stood up. Poor bastard, I said. Tom spun around. His face turned white. Erin froze in the hallway. She turned, and when she saw me, her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Surprised, I said. I'm surprised too. Surprised my own sister would gut me for a payoff. Dennis, I can explain. Explain what? Explain the 15 grand in that tote, the deeds you stole, the ring you were about to pawn. Tom stepped forward. Now hold on. No, you hold on, I said. I stepped toward him, chest out. You think I'm stupid? You think I didn't know? I've known everything since Thursday. I heard every word. I recorded every single second. I pulled out my phone and showed them the video. The safe. The cash. The phone call. Erin's face went from white to gray. Walt, I said, raising my voice. Now. The front door opened. Walt walked in, badge out. Behind him, 2 deputies from the sheriff's department. Erin screamed. Tom bolted for the back door, but Walt was faster. He took him down in the kitchen, face first into the tile. I walked over to Erin. She was crying again. Real tears this time. How could you? I asked. Denny, I'm sorry. You're not sorry. You're caught. There's a difference. I pulled the cheap decoy ring from my jacket pocket and tossed it to her. Here. You wanted it so bad. It's not even worth $50. The real one's in my safe deposit box. Has been since Thursday. She stared at the ring in her hands like it was a dead thing. You wanted to take everything from me, I said. You wanted to leave me with nothing. You used my wife's kindness. You used my love. And you smiled while you did it. Tom was handcuffed on the kitchen floor, cursing. The deputies read them their rights. Walt walked up to me and held out a folder. All the evidence. Emails, bank records, photos, recordings. They're going away for a long time. I took the folder. I looked at Erin one last time. Her face was streaked with tears, her blonde hair a mess again, just like the night she'd called me. But this time, I felt nothing. You made your choice, I said. You chose him. You chose this. Now you live with it. They let her out the front door in handcuffs. Tom followed, still cursing, still blaming her. I stood in the middle of my living room and stared at the mess. The tote bag on the floor. The safe door hanging open. The photo of Claire and me, face down on the coffee table where Tom had dropped it. Claire came home at 5, all smiles, expecting a trip. I sat her down and told her everything. She cried. She didn't cry for Erin. She cried for me. She held my hand and said, "You did the right thing." I almost didn't, I admitted. She was my sister. She stopped being your sister the moment she planned to destroy you, Claire said. Blood doesn't get a pass for that. 6 months later, the trial was fast. Erin pled guilty to theft and fraud. Tom fought it, but Walt's evidence was airtight. He got 7 years. She got 5. They took plea deals and blamed each other until the very end. I got everything back. The cash, the deeds, my grandmother's ring. Claire wears it now, on the right hand, a reminder that some bonds are chosen, not inherited. My parents called me. They were devastated. They asked if I could forgive her. I already have, I told them. But I'll never forget. And I'll never trust her again. That's the thing about family. You don't get to pick them. But you do get to pick whether you let them destroy you. I chose me. My sister called me crying, saying her husband had kicked her out. I opened my home to her. One night, I came home early and caught her doing something unforgivable behind my back. So I stole her future before she could steal mine. Family means something. But so does self-respect. And I'd rather be alone with my dignity than surrounded by wolves who share my last name. What would you do if the person you trusted most became the one you feared the most? Comment your story below. I came home early on a Thursday and caught my sister emptying my safe. That was the moment everything shattered. But the real trap didn't spring until Saturday. And in between, I had to live with the devil wearing my sister's face. The morning after I saw her in my study, I got up and made coffee like nothing happened. Erin came down in Claire's robe, her hair wet from the shower, humming some song from when we were kids. She poured herself a mug and sat across from me at the kitchen island. "You look tired, Denny," she said. "Did you sleep okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just a long week." She reached across and patted my hand. "I really appreciate you and Claire letting me stay. I don't know what I'd do without you." I looked at her fingers on mine. Those same fingers had shoved my grandmother's ring into a tote bag 12 hours earlier. I wanted to pull my hand away. I wanted to flip the table. Instead, I smiled and said, "That's what family's for." She smiled back, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of something genuine in her eyes. It didn't last. It never did. Claire came in, kissed my cheek, and started making her own coffee. "I was thinking we could take Erin to that new barbecue place on South Lamar tonight. Give her a taste of Austin." "That sounds great," I said. That Erin lit up. "Really, you don't have to go to any trouble." "Nobody's going to any trouble," Claire said. "You're our guest. We want you to feel welcome." Erin's smile stretched wider. But I saw her eyes slide past Claire and land on the hallway leading to my study. She was already thinking about the business transfer forms she hadn't found yet. She was already planning her next move. I watched her like a hawk that whole day. Every time she glanced at the study, every time she asked where I was going, every time her phone buzzed and she read a text with that cold, calculating focus. I logged it all in my mind. At lunch, she mentioned she needed to go to the bank. "Just to check my account. I want to see if Tom's drained it yet." "I'll drive you," I said. No. You've got work. I'll just take the truck." I tossed her the keys. "Don't scratch it." She laughed. "I won't." She left at 1. I called Walt immediately. "She's heading to the bank. She said she's checking her account." "No, she's not," Walt said. "I've been tailing her since yesterday. She's not going anywhere near a bank. She's going back to the motel. To meet Tom. To meet Tom. I'll get more photos. Call you when she's done." I hung up and stood in my kitchen, gripping the counter until my knuckles turned white. My sister was in a motel room with the man who'd supposedly beaten her, planning my ruin. And I couldn't do a thing about it. Not yet. Walt called me 2 hours later. "They're having lunch at a diner off the access road. She's got your business papers out on the table. They're going over the valuations." "Can you hear what they're saying?" "Not from where I am, but I got a clear shot of the documents. She's got your tax returns too. She must have found them in the study last night." I felt sick. What else? She's asking him about the flight. He says the tickets are booked for Tuesday. They're leaving the day after she signs the transfer papers at your bank. Tuesday. That's 4 days. You've got time. But you need to move fast. If she gets her hands on those transfer forms, she can sign them as a resident of your household. Texas law gives her certain tenancy rights. She could make a real mess. I'm not letting it get that far. That's the spirit. One more thing. Tom's nervous. He's been checking over his shoulder. He knows something's off. Be careful. I thanked him and hung up. Careful. I'd been careful my whole life. I'd built a business from the ground up. I'd saved money for emergencies. I'd married a woman I trusted with everything. Careful kept me safe. But careful didn't prepare me for my own sister. That evening, I had dinner with Claire and Erin. We went to the barbecue place on South Lamar. Erin ordered a margarita and laughed at Claire's jokes. She talked about our childhood, about the time I built her a tree house in the backyard, about the time I scared off her first boyfriend with a shotgun. "I was joking," I said. "The gun wasn't even loaded." "I didn't know that," Erin laughed. "And neither did he." Claire laughed too. "Dennis always was protective." "He still is," Erin said. She looked at me with those blue eyes. "Even after all these years." "I'm lucky." I drank my beer and said nothing. When we got home, I went to my study and closed the door. I opened the safe. It was still unlocked from the night before, and checked everything. The cash was gone, of course. She'd put it in her bag and moved it somewhere. Probably the motel room. But the deeds and papers were still there. She hadn't taken those out of the house yet. I made a decision. I pulled out the velvet box with my grandmother's ring and slipped it into my pocket. Then I found a cheap ring I'd bought at a pawn shop years ago for a Halloween costume. I put it in the box and put the box back in the safe. If she came back for more, she'd get the decoy. I locked the safe, reset the combination, and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of bacon. Erin was in the kitchen, cooking breakfast again. She'd made pancakes, too. She was being so helpful, so grateful. It was almost perfect. "I want to take you out to lunch today," she said as she flipped a pancake. "My treat. Just me and you. Like the old days." I almost said no, but something in her voice made me pause. This was different. This wasn't her playing the victim. This was her playing the loving sister. "Sure," I said. "Where do you want to go?" "There's that old diner off 35. The one we used to go to after Mom's funeral." Remember? I remembered. Mom had died when I was 20 and Erin was 17. We'd gone to that diner because neither of us could face going home to an empty house. We'd sat in a booth for hours, drinking coffee and not talking. She'd held my hand across the table. That was the moment I realized I was the only family she had left. "Yeah, I remember," I said. "Great. Let's go at noon." She smiled and went back to cooking. The diner was exactly the same as it had been 25 years ago. Same cracked vinyl booths. Same stale coffee smell. Same waitress behind the counter, though she was older now, gray-haired and slow. We sat in the same booth. Erin ordered a club sandwich. I ordered a burger. For a few minutes, we ate in silence. Then she put down her sandwich and looked at me. "Denny, I want to ask you something. And I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. Do you hate Tom?" The question caught me off guard. "Why are you asking that?" "Because I can see it in your face every time I mention his name. You hate him. You always have. And I need to know, does that hate extend to me for loving him?" I set down my burger. This was new territory. I'd never been able to talk to her about Tom without her getting defensive. Now she was asking the question herself. "I don't hate you," I said. "I never could. But I don't trust him. I never did. And I don't understand why you keep going back to a man who hurts you." "He's not all bad," she said. "He's just complicated. He hit you, Erin. He was drunk. And he was under a lot of pressure. His business hasn't been doing well. He's scared. Being scared doesn't give you the right to bruise your wife." She looked down at her plate. I know it doesn't. But I also know he loves me. And I love him. And that's not something you can just turn off." I stared at her. Was she actually trying to justify staying with him, or was she trying to make me feel sorry for her? I couldn't tell anymore. "If you go back to him," I said slowly, "you're going to get hurt again. Maybe worse next time. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved." "Maybe I don't want to be saved," she said quietly. "Maybe I just want someone to understand." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I understand more than you think. I know what it's like to love someone who doesn't deserve it. But loving someone isn't the same as being used by them." She pulled her hand away. "You think he's using me. I think you're worth more than what he gives you. That's all." She didn't answer. She just picked up her sandwich and took a bite. I watched her chew, and something in my chest tightened. For a moment, I almost believed the performance. She was so good at this, so practiced at making you feel guilty for not trusting her. It was a gift, really, or a curse, depending on whose side you were on. I paid for lunch, and we drove home in silence. When we got back to the house, Erin said she had a headache and went to lie down. I went to my study and called Walt. "She's getting nervous," I said. "She asked me about Tom. She was testing me." "Testing you how?" "She wanted to know if I hated him. She wanted to see if I'd changed my mind about her. She's looking for reassurance that I still trust her." "And do you?" "No. But I pretended." "Good. Keep pretending. I've got something for you." "What?" "I managed to get a recording of their last phone call. Tom's screaming at her. He's saying she's dragging her feet. He wants the transfer forms by Monday, or he's leaving without her." I felt a cold knot in my stomach. He'd do that, he would. And she knows it. That's why she's pushing harder. She's terrified of losing him. He's already gone. She just doesn't see it. She'll see it soon enough. But not before she tries to take everything you've got. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Claire, staring at the ceiling, running through everything Walt had told me. The motel meetings, the phone calls, the flight tickets, the shell accounts. My sister was going to steal my company. She was going to take my house. She was going to leave me bankrupt and homeless, and then she was going to fly to Florida with the man who'd hit her. And the worst part, she'd convinced herself she was the victim. I got up at 2 in the morning and walked to the guest room. Erin was asleep, her face peaceful, her blonde hair spread across the pillow. She looked exactly like she had when we were kids, sleeping in the bunk bed above me. I stood there in the darkness and thought about all the times I'd protected her, all the nights I'd stayed up worrying about her, all the money I'd loaned her that she never paid back, all the lies I'd told Claire to cover for her. And for what? For her to stand in my study and call me a mark. I walked back to my room and sat at the edge of the bed. Claire stirred and opened her eyes. "Denny, what's wrong?" "Nothing. Just couldn't sleep." She sat up and put her hand on my back. "You've been acting strange for days." "What's going on?" I almost told her then. I wanted to. She deserved to know that her kindness was being weaponized, that the sister-in-law she'd welcomed into our home was feeding us poison. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed Erin and Tom to commit. I needed to catch them in the act, not just with video, but with witnesses. "I've got a lot on my mind," I said. "Business stuff. It's nothing you need to worry about." She studied my face in the darkness. "You're lying to me." "I'm not. Don't." Her voice was soft but firm. "You're a terrible liar, Dennis. You always have been. Whatever this is, I'm on your side. You know that, right?" I looked at her, my wife, my partner, the one person in the world who'd never given me a reason to doubt her. "I know," I said. "I know you are. And I'm going to tell you everything. I promise. But not tonight. I just need a little more time." She nodded slowly. "Okay. But don't shut me out. Whatever happens, we face it together." "Together," I repeated, as she lay back down and fell asleep with her hand on my arm. I stayed awake until the first light of dawn. The next morning, I made a decision. I had to force the issue. I had to give Erin what she wanted, or at least what she thought she wanted, and let her take the bait. I went to my study and opened the safe. I pulled out the business transfer forms and left them on my desk, right in plain sight. I also left a copy of the guest room lease, the one Erin had signed when she moved in, right next to them. Then I went to Claire. "I need you to be out of the house on Saturday. All day." "Why?" "I'm planning a surprise. A weekend trip. I need you to go to your sister's place in the morning and stay until I pick you up at 5. She looked at me, searching my face. "This is about whatever you've been keeping from me, isn't it?" "It is. But I promise, when it's over, you'll understand. Just trust me." She kissed my forehead. "I trust you. But I'm holding you to that promise." She left the room. I sat down at my desk and stared at the transfer forms. If Erin found them, and I knew she would, she'd take them to Tom and they'd try to sign them. That was my opening. I called Walt. "I'm setting the trap. She's going to find the forms tomorrow. I need you ready to move when she does." "I'm ready. Just give me the signal." "Saturday. I'll have Claire out of the house. It'll just be me and them." "One more thing," Walt said. "I found the shell accounts. They're in Delaware. She opened them 3 months ago under a different name. She's been moving small amounts of money in and out, making it look like legitimate business transactions." "How much?" "About 50,000 so far. And they're planning to drain everything once the house is signed over." I closed my eyes. 50,000. That was money she'd taken from me and then laundered. It was smart. It was methodical. And it meant she'd been planning this much longer than I'd known. "She's been your sister for 40 years, Walt said quietly. "And she's been robbing you for at least 6 months. That's not a mistake. That's a conspiracy." "I know. Can you handle it?" "I have to." I hung up and went to the living room. Erin was on the couch, watching a cooking show. She glanced up at me with that same sweet smile. "You okay, Denny?" "Fine. Just tired. You should take a nap. You work too hard." I nodded and walked away. But I couldn't take a nap. I couldn't rest. My sister was in my house, planning to take everything I'd built, and she didn't have a single shred of remorse that night. I pretended to go to bed early. I heard Erin walk past my door at 11. I heard her open the study door. I heard her find the forms. And I heard her whisper, "Got it." In the morning, she was gone before I woke up. The study door was closed, but the forms were gone from my desk. So was the lease. I called Walt. She took the bait. "I'm on her. She's already heading to the motel. Let me know when they sign." "Will do." The next 2 days were agony. I smiled at Erin. I ate dinner with her. I watched TV with her. And every minute, I was counting down as Saturday. Claire left on Saturday morning at 9. She hugged me and said, "See you at 5. I'll be there." I said as she drove away. I walked back into the house and waited till Erin came down an hour later. I'm going to run some errands, she said. Take the truck. She took the keys and left. 2 hours later, I heard the truck pull back in. 2 doors closed. 2 sets of footsteps on the gravel. She'd brought Tom with her. I stayed in my recliner, facing away from the door. The front door opened. Erin walked in first, flushed, excited. Tom followed with the leather bag. He looked around the living room like it was already his. See, Erin said. I told you he'd be at work. He's always at work, Tom said. That's why he's got so much money. They didn't see me. I watched their reflections in the TV screen. Everything's ready, Erin said. I've got the deeds, the cash, the forms. We just need to sign them. Go get them. She walked toward the study. Tom set down his bag and started looking around. He picked up the photo of Claire and me from the honeymoon. He laughed. Poor bastard. He said. I stood up. Poor bastard, I said. Tom spun around. His face went white. Erin froze in the hallway. She turned. When she saw me, her eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. Surprised, I said. I'm surprised too. Surprised my own sister would gut me for a payoff. I stood there in my own living room, watching the blood drain from my sister's face. Tom's hands went up like I was holding a gun on him. I wasn't. I didn't need one. I had something better. Denny, please, Erin said. Her voice cracked. Just let me explain. Explain what exactly? I stepped closer. Explain the $15,000 you shoved in that bag on Thursday. Explain the deeds you were going to forge, or explain the call I heard where Tom called me a mark. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Tom started backing toward the kitchen. Don't even think about it, I said. You're not going anywhere. Dennis, you're making a mistake, Tom said. His voice was steady, but his eyes were darting everywhere. This is a misunderstanding. We can work this out. Work what out the shell accounts in Delaware, the forged social security number, the flight to Costa Rica you booked for Tuesday. Tom froze. His face went from white to gray. How do you know about that? Erin whispered. I know everything, I said. I've known since Thursday. I watched you empty my safe. I heard you on the phone. I've had a private investigator on you for 5 days. You set me up. Erin's voice was flat now, stripped of its pleading tone. You set me up from the beginning. I set you up. You showed up at my door with a story about being abused. You cried on my shoulder. You let Claire make you breakfast. You hugged me and called me the best brother in the world while you were picking my pocket. Don't talk to me about being set up. Tom took a step forward. You can't prove any of this. I pulled out my phone and hit play. The video came up. Erin crouched in front of the safe, pulling out cash and papers. Her face was clear. The safe was open. The money was in her hands. That's one, I said. Then I swiped to the next file. Audio of Tom's voice through the speaker. He's a mark, Erin. Rich, soft, stupid. Tom's face twisted. That's not. That's 2, I said. Want 3, 4? I've got hours of footage. I've got photos from the motel. I've got bank records. I've got everything. Erin started crying. Real tears or not, I couldn't tell anymore. Denny, please, I didn't mean. You didn't mean what to steal from me, to destroy my business, to leave me with nothing while you and your boyfriend ran off to Costa Rica. I laughed. It came out bitter and hard. You meant every word. You planned every detail. The only thing you didn't plan was me coming home early. Tom grabbed Erin's arm. We're leaving. No, you're not. I raised my voice. Walt. Now, the front door opened. Walt walked in with his badge out, and behind him, 2 deputies from the sheriff's department. They had handcuffs ready. Tom bolted for the back door. He made it 3 steps before Walt took him down. His face hit the kitchen tile with a crack that made Erin scream. Tom. She ran toward him, but one of the deputies grabbed her arm and spun her around. Erin Whitfield, you're under arrest for theft, fraud, and conspiracy to commit grand larceny, the deputy said. You have the right to remain silent. Get your hands off me. Erin shrieked. I didn't do anything. He's lying. He's my brother. He's lying. I watched her struggle against the deputy. Her face was red, streaked with tears. Her hair was a tangled mess. She looked nothing like the sister I'd grown up with. Take her out, I said. The deputy cuffed her and led her to the door. She twisted her neck to look back at me. Denny, please. I'm your sister. You can't do this to me. I walked up to her and looked her in the eye. You stopped being my sister the night you called me and lied about Tom hitting you. You stopped being my sister the moment you opened that safe. You stopped being my sister when you smiled at Claire and told her you loved her while you were planning to take everything from us. Her face crumpled. I had no choice. Tom made me. Tom didn't make you do anything. You're a grown woman. You made your choices. Now you live with them. The deputy pulled her out the door. Tom followed a minute later, still cuffed, still cursing, still blaming Aaron for everything. Bitch, he hissed as they passed her. This is your fault. You were too slow. You were the one who wanted to wait, she screamed back. You said we needed more time. I stood in the doorway and watched them put my sister and her husband into separate patrol cars. The neighbors came out of their houses, staring. I didn't care. Let them stare. Let them talk. Walt walked up to me and put a hand on my shoulder. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right. It never does. But it was right. He handed me a folder. All the evidence. Emails, bank records, photos, recordings. They're going away for a long time. I took the folder and went back inside. The house was quiet now. Too quiet. I could still smell Erin's perfume in the hall. I could still see the impression of her body on the couch where she'd spent so many hours. That I walked to the study and looked at the safe. The door was still hanging open. Inside, the velvet box sat untouched. I opened it and looked at the decoy ring. It looked real enough. If Erin had gotten her hands on it, she would have been disappointed. I closed the box and put it back. Then I sat down at my desk and waited for Claire. She came home at 5. I heard her key in the lock, heard her call out, "Denny, I'm back." What's the surprise? I met her in the hall. She took one look at my face and stopped. Something happened, she said. Not a question. A statement. I took her hands and led her to the living room. I sat her down on the couch and told her everything. The safe, the video, the motel, the shell accounts, the arrest. Claire didn't cry. She didn't scream. She listened to every word, and when I was done, she sat in silence for a long moment. She was in my kitchen, Claire said finally. She hugged me. She told me she loved me like a sister. I know. She played me. She played both of us. Yes. Claire looked up at me. Her eyes were dry, but her face was tight. I want her stuff out of the guest room. Tonight. I'll take care of it. No. I'll do it. I need to do it. She walked to the guest room and started packing Erin's things. I watched her from the doorway. She moved methodically, folding clothes, bagging toiletries, piling everything on the bed. She didn't cry. She didn't say a word. When she was done, she carried the bags to the garage and set them by the door. If she needs them, she can come get them, Claire said. But she's not staying here another night. And I'm not having dinner with her. And I'm not pretending everything's okay. Claire, don't. Don't tell me to be understanding. I welcomed her into our home. I made her breakfast. I bought her shampoo because she said she didn't like the brand I use. And she was stealing from us the whole time. I know. I'm not defending her. Claire turned to face me. You could have told me. You could have warned me. I needed you to be out of the house. I needed you to be safe. I could have helped. You did help. You helped by being gone. If you'd been here when they came, they might have done something worse. I couldn't take that risk. She studied my face for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Okay, I understand. I'm sorry I kept it from you. I know. She stepped forward and hugged me. I'm sorry she did this to us. We stood there in the garage, holding each other, and for the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. The next morning, I went to the courthouse to file the official complaints. Mark, my lawyer, met me in the lobby. They're both in holding, he said. Erin's been crying all night. Tom's been threatening to sue everyone. Let him sue. I've got the evidence. Mark nodded. The DA wants to fast-track this. They've got enough for indictments on multiple counts. Fraud, theft, conspiracy, identity theft. That's a lot of years. How many, with the amount of money involved? Federal charges could add 10 to 15 years. State charges another 5 to 10. She could be looking at 20 years if she doesn't cooperate. I thought about that. My sister, 20 years in prison. It should have made me sad. It should have broken my heart. But all I felt was tired. Let her cooperate if she wants, I said. But I'm not dropping the charges. Not a single one. I'll make sure the DA knows. I walked out of the courthouse and stood on the steps, looking up at the sky. It was a clear Texas morning, the sun already hot. I thought about my mother. I thought about what she'd say if she could see us now. She'd be heartbroken. But she'd also be angry. Mom raised us to be honest, to work hard, to take care of each other. She never would have approved of what Erin did. I did what I had to, I said to the empty air. I hope you understand. The trial was set for 6 months later. In the meantime, I went back to work. I rebuilt the cash reserves Aaron had taken. I changed the locks on the house. I had the security system upgraded. Claire and I went to counseling. Not because our marriage was broken, but because we needed to talk about what happened. We needed to make sure Aaron hadn't poisoned something between us. She didn't, Claire said one evening. She tried, but she didn't. How do you know? Because I still trust you. And you still trust me. And that's something she could never take. I kissed her then. It was the first time in weeks that a kiss felt like a kiss and not just a habit. 6 months later, I sat in the courtroom and watched my sister walk in wearing an orange jumpsuit. Her hair was gray at the roots. Her face was thin and pale. She looked like a stranger. Tom was brought in separately. He looked worse. He'd lost weight. His eyes were sunken, and he had a cut on his forehead. He'd gotten in a fight with another inmate. The judge read the charges. The DA laid out the evidence. Walt testified about the investigation. I testified about the night I came home early and saw Aaron at my safe. The only time Aaron looked at me was when I was on the stand. She stared at me with hollow eyes. There was no anger in them. No sadness. Just emptiness. I didn't look away. After 3 days, the jury came back with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Aaron started crying. Dry, ugly sobs that didn't sound human. Tom just stared at the floor. The judge sentenced Aaron to 5 years in federal prison, with additional time to be served on state charges. Tom got 7 years, with the possibility of parole after 4. I don't want to see either of them again. I told Mark after the sentencing, you won't have to. I walked out of the courtroom and didn't look back. Claire was waiting in the hall. She hugged me, and we walked out together into the Texas sun. I felt lighter than I had in 6 months. We drove home in silence. I pulled into the driveway, parked the truck, and sat there for a minute. You okay? Claire asked. No, I said. But I will be. I walked into the house and went straight to my study. I opened the safe and took out the velvet box. I opened it and looked at my grandmother's ring. The real one this time. I walked to the living room and knelt in front of Claire. She looked down at me, confused. What are you doing? I was going to wait for our 20th anniversary, I said. But I don't want to wait anymore. I want you to have this now. I want you to know that you're the only person I trust completely. The only person who's never let me down. I took the ring out of the box and held it up. Claire, you're my family. You've been my family since the day we got married. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you never forget that. She took the ring and looked at it. Her hand was shaking. You kept it safe? She whispered. I kept it safe for you. She put the ring on her finger. It fit perfectly. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. I love you, Dennis. I love you too. We sat on the couch and held each other until the sun went down. I never spoke to Erin again. She tried to call from prison. She sent letters. She even managed to have a message pass through my parents. Dennis, she's sorry, my mom said over the phone. She knows she made a mistake. She wants to make things right. She made a choice, I said. Not a mistake. A choice. And she has to live with it. You're not going to forgive her. I already did forgive her. I forgave her the day I saw her in handcuffs. But forgiving someone doesn't mean trusting them again. It doesn't mean letting them back into my life. Mom was quiet. Then she said, I understand. I don't like it, but I understand. That was the end of it. 3 years later, I sold the construction business. I didn't need it anymore. I had enough money to retire, and Claire and I wanted to travel. We bought an RV and spent a year driving across the country. We saw the Grand Canyon. We saw Yellowstone. We saw the Pacific Ocean. We were happy. Sometimes, in the quiet moments, I thought about Erin. I wondered if she was okay. I wondered if she'd changed. I wondered if she'd ever get out and try to find me. But I never went looking for her. My sister called me crying, saying her husband had kicked her out. I opened my home to her. One night, I came home early and caught her doing something unforgivable behind my back. That night, I could have lost everything. I could have lost my marriage, my business, my home, my whole future. But I chose to fight back. I chose to protect what was mine. And I learned that family isn't just about blood. It's about trust. It's about loyalty. And when someone breaks that trust, they don't deserve a place in your life. I'm not proud of what I had to do, but I'm not ashamed of it either. My sister made her bed. Now she's lying in it. And I'm still standing. What would you do if the person you trusted most became the one you feared most? Share your story in the comments. The months between the trial and the sentencing were the strangest of my life. I kept waking up in the middle of the night, reaching for my phone, ready to call Erin. Old habits. 40 years of being her brother didn't just disappear because she tried to ruin me. But I never made the call. Claire handled it better than I did. She went back to her pottery classes, started a new garden in the backyard, took up painting. She was healing in ways I couldn't. I was still walking through the house, seeing Erin's ghost in every corner. The chair she'd sat in, the mug she'd used, the towel she'd hung on the bathroom rack. I threw most of it away. Not out of anger. Out of necessity. I couldn't look at a coffee cup and remember her smiling face while I knew what she'd been planning. The day before the sentencing, Walt called me. You need to see something, he said. What is it? I found a letter. She wrote it before the trial. It's addressed to you. Where is it? Her lawyer gave it to me. Said she wanted you to have it, but she was too scared to send it herself. Read it to me. Walt was quiet for a second. Then he cleared his throat. Denny, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know that I didn't start this. Tom came to me with the idea. He said you had money. He said we could start over somewhere new. He promised me a life I'd never had. A clean slate. A fresh start. And I was so tired, Denny. Tired of being broke. Tired of being scared. Tired of watching everyone else have things I couldn't afford. I told myself it was just money. That you'd get it back somehow. That it wouldn't really hurt you. I was lying to myself. I know that now. I'm not asking you to save me. I'm not asking you to visit. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And I always will be. I didn't say anything for a long time. Want me to send you the physical copy? Walt asked. No. Keep it. I don't want it in my house. You sure? I'm sure. I hung up and sat in my truck for an hour. The letter was true. I could feel it. Erin had been stupid and weak and selfish, but she hadn't been the mastermind. Tom had pushed her. He'd seen her vulnerability and exploited it, just like he'd exploited everything else in his life. But that didn't excuse her. She was a grown woman. She made a choice. And she'd made that choice over and over again, every day for 6 months. I drove home and told Claire about the letter. Are you going to respond? She asked. No. There's nothing to say. Maybe she really is sorry. Maybe she is. But sorry doesn't change what she did. Sorry doesn't give me back the months of stress. Sorry doesn't undo the fact that I had to watch my sister get arrested. Claire nodded slowly. I know. I'm not defending her. I'm just saying, she's still your sister. She was my sister. Now she's someone I used to know. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The sentencing hearing was brief. Erin stood in front of the judge, her hands cuffed in front of her, her face pale and hollow. She didn't look at me. She didn't look at anyone. She just stared at the floor while the judge read her sentence. 5 years in federal prison. 3 years of supervised release after that. Restitution of all stolen funds plus interest. Tom got 7 years and a longer supervised release. He fought the charges until the end, blaming Erin for everything. The judge didn't buy it. I left the courthouse without looking back. I threw myself back into work after that. I took on bigger projects. I hired more crew. I started bidding on commercial jobs instead of residential. The money was better, and the distractions were bigger. Claire noticed. She didn't say anything at first. But one night, she sat me down at the kitchen table with 2 glasses of wine and a serious expression. You're working too much, she said. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're avoiding something. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm just busy. Bullshit. She said it softly, but the word hit me like a slap. You're running. You're running from what happened. And you can't run forever. I looked at her. She wasn't angry. She was worried. I could see it in the lines around her eyes. What do you want me to do? I asked. I want you to talk to me. I want you to tell me what's going on in your head. Because I've been married to you for 18 years, and I know when you're hurting. I took a long drink of my wine. Then I started talking. I told her about the dreams I was having. Dreams where Erin was a kid again, and we were playing in the backyard, and I was pushing her on the swing. Dreams where I woke up and reached for my phone to call her, because I forgot for a second that she was in prison. I don't miss her, I said. I don't even like her anymore. But I miss the person she used to be. And that person is gone. And I can't get her back. Claire reached across the table and took my hand. You don't have to get her back. You just have to mourn her. That's what you're not doing. You're not letting yourself be sad. I don't want to be sad. Nobody wants to be sad. But you have to feel it or it'll eat you alive. I didn't cry. I'm not a crier. But I felt something loosen in my chest. A knot I'd been holding for months. I squeezed her hand and nodded. Okay, I said. I'll try. The next morning, I went back to the house where I grew up. My parents still lived there, even though they were both in their 70s. Mom was in the garden when I arrived. Dad was in the garage, tinkering with an old lawnmower that I told them I needed to talk. They sat me down at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd eaten breakfast every day from kindergarten to high school. Mom made tea. Dad sat across from me with his arms crossed. "I'm not here to ask for anything," I said. "I just wanted you to know that I'm okay. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. But I'm not going to let what Aaron did destroy me." Mom nodded. "We've been so worried about you." "I know. And I'm sorry I made you worry. But I need you to understand something. I can't have a relationship with her. Not now. Maybe not ever. And I need you to be okay with that." Dad was quiet. He'd always been the silent type. But Mom spoke up. "We're not going to force you," she said. "We've never tried to force you to do anything. But she's still our daughter. We're going to visit her. We're going to write her letters. We're not going to abandon her. I wouldn't ask you to. Then we understand each other." We sat in silence for a minute. Then Dad spoke. "Dennis, you did the right thing. I know you feel guilty. I can see it on your face. But you had no choice. She made her bed. You didn't push her into it. Thanks, Dad. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. You're the one who had the guts to do what needed to be done." I left their house feeling lighter than I had in months. Not happy, but lighter. Aaron wrote me 3 more letters from prison. I read the first one. She was sorry. She missed me. She wished she could take it all back. I read the second one. She was angry. She blamed me for not visiting. She said I was a coward. I read the third one. She was calm again. She said she was getting help. She was in therapy. She understood why I couldn't forgive her. I never wrote back. 2 years after the sentencing, I sold the construction business for more money than I ever expected. The buyer was a national firm that wanted a foothold in Austin. They gave me a deal I couldn't refuse. I told Claire we were retiring. She didn't believe me at first. Then I showed her the bank balance, and she cried. "We can go anywhere," she said. "We can do anything." "We can," I said. "And we're going to start with a road trip." We bought the RV that week. A big one, with a bedroom and a kitchen and a bathroom and a little office where I could write. I'd never been a writer, but I'd started keeping a journal. It helped out. We left Austin on a warm September morning. The sky was blue, the road was open, and I felt like I was finally leaving the past behind. We drove north first. Through Dallas, through Oklahoma City, through Kansas. We saw cornfields and wind farms and little towns with churches on every corner. We ate at diners and stayed at campgrounds and met people who had no idea what we'd been through. It was freeing. At night, I'd sit outside the RV and look up at the stars. No city lights. No noise. Just the sky and the silence and Claire beside me. "I love you." I told her one night. "I know," she said. "I love you too. You saved me. After everything that happened, you saved me." She smiled and leaned into me. That's what marriage is. Saving each other. We didn't talk about Aaron after that. There was nothing left to say. But I still thought about her. In the quiet moments, when the stars were out and the world was still, I'd think about my sister. I'd think about the girl I'd grown up with. The girl who used to steal my toys. The girl who cried when I left for college. The girl who stood next to me at our mother's funeral. I wondered if she ever thought about me. I wondered if she ever felt the loss the way I did. I hoped she did. I hoped she was suffering. Not because I wanted her to hurt, but because the suffering meant she understood what she'd done. That she'd finally woken up to the truth. We drove west after that. Through Colorado, through Utah, through Nevada. We saw mountains that made me feel small and deserts that made me feel vast. We took photos and sent them to my parents. We drank cheap wine and watched the sun set over the Grand Canyon. We were happy. But there was always a shadow. A corner of my mind that couldn't quite let go. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't vanish. It scars. And scars never fully healed. One night, we were parked in a campground outside of Flagstaff. I couldn't sleep. I got up, walked outside, and sat on a bench looking at the stars. I pulled out my phone. I had Aaron's number saved in my contacts. I didn't know why. I'd never used it. But it was there. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put the phone away and went back to bed. Some doors should stay closed. 3 years later, Aaron was released from prison. I found out from my mom, who called me with the news. "She's coming home," Mom said. "She's been released early for good behavior. She wants to see you." "I don't want to see her. She's changed, Dennis. She's been in therapy for years. She understands what she did. She wants to make amends. She can make amends by leaving me alone." Mom was quiet. I could hear the hurt in her voice when she finally spoke. "She's still your sister. She's still flesh and blood. She stopped being my sister the night she tried to destroy me, I said. And I can't pretend otherwise. I understand. I wish it was different. But I understand. I'm sorry, Mom. Don't be sorry. Just be sure. I hung up and told Claire. She didn't say anything at first. She just hugged me. You know what you need to do? She said, I do. And I did. I needed to keep the door closed. I needed to protect what I'd built. The trust, the marriage, the happiness. Erin had tried to take it all once. I wasn't going to give her another chance. That evening, I got an email from a prison address. Erin's name was on the sender line. I opened it. Denny, I'm out. I'm staying with Mom and Dad for now. I don't know if you'll ever read this. I don't know if you'll ever respond. But I want you to know that I don't expect anything from you. I just want you to know that I understand. I understand why you did what you did. I understand why you can't forgive me. And I don't blame you. I hope you're happy. I hope Claire is happy. You deserve that. I'm sorry for everything. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be better. That's all I can do. I read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and didn't reply. A year later, my parents sold the house. They moved to a retirement community near San Antonio. Erin moved with them. She got a job at a bookstore in town. She went to therapy. She started volunteering at an animal shelter. I heard about all of this through my parents. I didn't ask. But Mom told me anyway. She's doing well, Mom said. She's not the same person. She's actually happy. She's making friends. She's helping people. That's good, I said. I know you don't want to see her, but I thought you should know. Thank you. I appreciate it. We talked about other things after that. The weather, my dad's golf game, the new roof on their house, the normal things. But I couldn't stop thinking about Erin. The woman who'd stolen from me, the woman who'd lied to me, the woman who'd tried to take everything I'd built. She was rebuilding her life. And I was still rebuilding mine. I didn't know how to feel about that. A few months later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello, Denny, Erin's voice. The first time I'd heard it in 4 years. It was quieter than I remembered, less polished, more real. I didn't hang up. I didn't know why. Erin, I know you don't want to talk to me. I know you don't want to see me, and I'm not going to ask you to. I just wanted to say one thing, and then I'll never call you again. Say it. I'm sorry. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but I need you to hear it one more time. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for the way I hurt you. I'm sorry for using Claire. I'm sorry for making you lose trust in people. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't respond. You don't have to say anything, she said. I just wanted you to know. I'm doing better. I'm not the same person I was. And I hope one day, when you think about me, you don't feel so much pain. I took a breath. Erin, goodbye, Denny. I love you. I always have. And I always will. She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, holding the phone, staring at the wall. Claire walked in and saw my face. What happened? Erin called. What did she say? She said she was sorry. She said she loved me. And she said goodbye. Claire sat down beside me. How do you feel? I don't know. I was honest. I don't know what I feel. That's okay. You don't have to know. I put the phone down. And for the first time in years, I didn't want to pick it up again. I never called Erin back. But I stopped carrying the anger. Not forgiveness. Not trust. Just a letting go. A release. I realized that hating her was a weight I didn't need to carry. It didn't hurt her. It only hurt me. I focused on Claire. On my health. On the small joys of life. On the garden we planted in our backyard. On the dog we adopted. On the morning walks and the afternoon naps and the evening conversations that lasted until the stars came out. I built a new life. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. And one day, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about Erin in a week. Then a month. Then a year. She wasn't gone from my life. She'd never be gone. But she was no longer in the center of it. And that, I decided, was a victory. The call from my father came on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the backyard, planting roses with Claire. The sun was warm, the soil was soft, and for the first time in years, I felt like I had found peace. Dennis, Dad said. His voice was heavy, that tone he used when he had bad news. I'd heard it twice before, when my grandfather died and when my mother was diagnosed with cancer. Dad, what's wrong? Your mother collapsed this morning. They took her to the hospital. It's her heart. I dropped the trowel. Claire saw my face and stood up. I'm on my way. I said that we packed a bag and drove to San Antonio that night. I kept the speed high on I-35, my hands tight on the steering wheel, my mind racing. Mom had been fine when I'd last spoken to her. She'd been laughing about Dad's golf game. She'd been planning a trip to the coast with her friends. Now she was in a hospital bed with tubes in her arms and a monitor beeping beside her. We got to the hospital at 9 p.m. Erin was already there. I knew she would be. She'd been living with my parents for over a year, helping them around the house, driving them to appointments. She was part of their lives now in ways I wasn't. I walked into the waiting room and saw her sitting in the corner, her hands clasped together, her face pale and tear-streaked. She looked up when I walked in. Our eyes met. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she stood up. Denny. Erin. We didn't hug. We didn't shake hands. We just stood there, 3 feet apart, the years of pain and betrayal hanging between us like a curtain. Mom's in surgery, she said. Dad's in there with her. They said it was a blockage. They're putting in a stent. I nodded. How long has she been in there? For hours. They said it would take 6. Claire came up beside me and took my hand. She looked at Erin and nodded, a small, tight nod. Not forgiveness. Not warmth. Just acknowledgement. That Erin nodded back. That we sat in the waiting room. The 3 of us. The silence stretching out like a rope. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights. I could hear Erin breathing, shallow, uneven, like she was holding back tears. How are you? I asked. I didn't know why I asked. It just came out. Erin looked at me, surprised. I'm okay. I'm worried about Mom. But I'm okay. You look tired. I haven't been sleeping well. She's been sick for a while. She didn't want to tell you. Why not? She didn't want you to worry. She knew you were still angry about everything. She thought it would make things worse. I felt a knot tighten in my chest. My mother had been sick, and I hadn't known. I hadn't been there. I'd been so busy with my own pain that I'd missed what was happening right in front of me. I should have been here, I said. Erin shook her head. You couldn't have known. And even if you had your own life, your own healing to do. I looked at her differently then. She wasn't the same person who'd stood in my study and stolen my grandmother's ring. She wasn't the same person who'd smiled at Claire while planning to leave us broke. She was thinner, grayer, quieter. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there before. She looked like a woman who'd been through a war. Because she had. She'd been to prison. She'd lost her husband. She'd lost her brother. And she'd had to start over from nothing. I didn't forgive her. Not then. But I saw her. Really saw her. And that was something. The doctor came out at midnight. My father was with him, his face pale but relieved. She's going to be okay, Dad said. The surgery went well. They're moving her to recovery. She's resting. Erin burst into tears. She covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Claire went to her. She put her hand on Erin's shoulder and said nothing. But she didn't pull away. I watched my wife comfort my sister. The sister who'd tried to destroy us. The sister who'd stolen from us. The sister who'd lied to us. Claire was a better person than I was. Can we see her? I asked. Tomorrow, Dad said. She needs rest. She'll be awake in the morning. We went to a hotel that night. Erin didn't have a car, so we drove her to my parents' house and dropped her off. She stood in the doorway, her keys in her hand, looking at us. Thank you, she said, for coming. She's our mother, I said. I wasn't going to stay away. Erin nodded. I know you don't want me in your life. I understand. But I'm glad you're here. And I know Mom will be too. She went inside. I drove away. Claire sat beside me, quiet. Then she reached across and took my hand. You handled that well, she said. I didn't handle anything. I just showed up. That's all you needed to do. We went back to the hospital the next morning. Mom was awake, pale but alert. She smiled when she saw me. Denny, my boy, she said. Her voice was weak, but her eyes were bright. I was hoping you'd come. Of course I came. You're my mother. She reached for my hand and squeezed it. I know I shouldn't have kept the illness from you, but I didn't want to be a burden. You're not a burden. You're my mom. She looked past me to Claire, who was standing in the doorway. Claire, honey, come here. Give me a hug. Claire hugged her gently. They talked for a few minutes about the garden and the dog and the trip we'd taken. Normal things. Easy things. Then Erin walked in. She'd brought coffee and a bag of muffins. She set them on the table by the bed and stood next to me. Mom, you look better today, she said. I feel better, Mom said. And look, my whole family is here. That's the best medicine there is. Erin glanced at me. I glanced at her. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Then I heard myself speak. Mom's right, I said. We're all here. Erin's eyes widened. She didn't expect me to say that. Neither did I. But it was true. We were all here. Broken, imperfect, but together. Mom stayed in the hospital for 3 days. We rotated shifts. Claire and I took the morning. Aaron took the afternoon. Dad stayed overnight. On the second night, I came back to the hospital to pick up something I'd left in Mom's room. Aaron was there, sitting beside the bed, reading a book out loud. Mom was asleep, but Aaron kept reading, her voice soft and steady. She was reading a novel, something old and worn, the pages yellowed. I recognized it. It was one of Mom's favorites. The same book she'd read to us when we were kids. "What are you doing?" I asked from the doorway. Aaron looked up. "She likes the sound of my voice," she said. "It helps her sleep." "That's nice of you." "It's nothing. She used to do the same for me when I was sick." I walked in and sat in the chair across from her. Mom stirred but didn't wake. Aaron closed the book and set it on her lap. "How are you feeling?" I asked. "About Mom, about everything." She was quiet for a minute. Then she said, "I'm still trying to figure it out. Every day, I wake up and think about what I did. I think about the night you caught me in the study. I think about the look on your face. I don't know if I'll ever stop thinking about it. I don't think about it as much as I used to." I said, "That's good. That's progress." "Is that what this is, progress?" "I don't know." She laughed, a soft, sad laugh. "I don't know what to call it. But I'm trying. That's all I can do." We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then I said, "Why did you do it? Aaron, I need to understand." She looked at her hands. "Because I was desperate. Because Tom made me feel like I was worthless unless I was helping him. Because I thought money would solve all my problems. Because I was selfish and scared and stupid. That's not a reason. I know. It's not. She paused. "I wanted to be someone else. Someone who had things. Someone who didn't have to worry. And I convinced myself that I deserved it. That you had enough. That you wouldn't miss it. I lied to myself so hard that I believed it." I leaned back in my chair. "I forgave you a long time ago. Not because you deserved it. Because I couldn't carry the anger anymore. It was killing me. I know. I read your journal." I froze. "You read my journal?" "I wasn't snooping. You left it in the RV when you visited Mom last year. I saw it on the table. I know I shouldn't have opened it. But I did. I read everything." "How much?" "All of it. The parts about me. The parts about Claire. The parts about how you felt like you were drowning. I cried for 3 days after that. You shouldn't have read it. I know. And I'm sorry. But it made me understand. It made me realize how much I'd hurt you. Not just by stealing your money. By stealing your trust. By stealing the person you used to be." I didn't know what to say. So I said nothing. "I'm not asking for anything," Aaron said. "I'm not asking you to forgive me or trust me or let me back into your life. I just want you to know that I'm different now. I'm not the same person who stood in your study and took your ring. I'm sorry. And I'll always be sorry." I stood up. I walked to the window and looked out at the parking lot. The lights were on, casting orange pools on the asphalt. I watched a nurse walk across the lot to her car, her scrubs bright in the darkness. Then I turned around. "Come to dinner with us," I said. Aaron stared at me. "What? Dinner?" "Claire and I are going to that Italian place on River Walk. You should come." "I don't. Denny, I don't think. I'm not saying we're okay. I'm not saying I trust you. But it's dinner. One meal. Just to try." Her eyes filled with tears. She nodded, her chin trembling. "Okay," she said. "Okay. I'll come." We went to dinner that night. Claire was surprised when she saw Aaron. But she didn't say anything. She just sat down, ordered a glass of wine, and asked Aaron about the book she'd been reading. It was awkward at first. We talked about the hospital, about Mom's recovery, about Dad's golf game. Safe topics. Easy topics. Then Claire asked Aaron about her job at the bookstore. "I like it," Aaron said. "It's quiet. The people are nice. I get to read a lot." "That sounds peaceful," Claire said. "It is. I need peaceful." We ordered dinner. The food was good. The wine was good. And somewhere in the middle of the meal, I realized I wasn't tense. I wasn't angry. I was just eating dinner with my wife and my sister. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't trust. But it was something. I drove Aaron back to my parents' house after dinner. She sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, looking out the window. "Thank you," she said. "For tonight. You don't have to thank me. Denny, I know you didn't want to do this. I know you did it for Mom. But I want you to know, I'm grateful. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But I'm grateful you're willing to try." I pulled into the driveway and put the truck in parked. "I don't know what the future looks like," I said. "I don't know if we'll ever be close again. But I know that carrying all that anger was hurting me more than it was hurting you. And I want to stop hurting. She nodded. I want that too. I didn't hug her. I didn't say I loved her. I just watched her walk up the steps to my parents' house and go inside. Then I drove home to Claire. Mom recovered. She was out of the hospital within a week, back in her garden within a month. Her heart was stronger now, and she had more energy than she'd had in years. She started cooking again. She started baking. She started driving Dad crazy with all her activity. Your mother is a machine, Dad told me on the phone. She won't sit still. That's a good thing, I said. It means she's healthy. She's also driving me up the wall. She rearranged the entire kitchen. I can't find anything. I laughed. It was the first time in a long time that I'd laughed at something my father said, that we started visiting more often. Every few months, Claire and I would drive down to San Antonio and spend a weekend with my parents. Erin was always there. She lived with them now, and she cooked meals and did the laundry and took them to their doctor's appointments. At first, I kept my distance. I was polite to her, but polite like you'd be to a stranger. We didn't have long conversations. We didn't joke around. But something shifted over time. It started with small things. She'd make coffee in the morning, and she'd leave a cup on the counter for me. She'd buy the brand I liked, the one she remembered from when we were kids. She'd put the cream in it before I even asked. One day, I told her she didn't have to do that. I know, she said. But I want to. I let her. Over the next year, we started talking more. Not about the past. That was still too raw. But about other things. Books. Movies. The weather. Mom's garden. The stray cat that had adopted my parents' backyard. I named him Sullivan. Erin told me one afternoon. He looks like a Sullivan. He looks like a stray cat. I said, he is a stray. But he's also a Sullivan. I laughed. She laughed too. It felt strange at first. But then it felt normal. Claire noticed the change. She didn't comment on it. She just watched, and she smiled. On the 3rd anniversary of Mom's surgery, we had a family dinner at my parents' house. Dad grilled steaks. Mom made her famous potato salad. Claire brought a pie. And Erin brought Sullivan. The cat, it turned out, was a permanent resident now. He sat on the porch and watched us eat. How are you doing? I asked Erin, sitting next to her on the porch swing. I'm okay, she said. I've been in therapy for 3 years. I'm still going. I think I'll always need to. That's not a bad thing. I know. I used to think it was weakness. Now I think it's just maintenance. Like taking care of a garden. Is that what you're doing, taking care of a garden? I'm trying. She looked at me. What about you? How are you doing? I thought about it. I'm good. I'm better than I used to be. I don't wake up thinking about what happened anymore. I don't feel that anger in my chest. I'm not healed, but I'm healing. That's progress. Yeah, I guess it is. She reached over and put her hand on mine. Just for a second. Just a touch. I didn't pull away. We watched the sun go down together. That night, I drove home with Claire. She was quiet for most of the drive. Then, as we got close to Austin, she turned to me. I'm proud of you, she said. For what? For giving her a chance. For letting her back in. I know how hard that was for you. It wasn't easy, but it felt like the right thing to do. It was. And I think, she paused. I think she's actually changed. I didn't believe it at first. I thought she was just pretending. But she's different. You can see it in her eyes. She's different, I agreed. But I'm still careful. That's smart. You should be careful, but you should also be proud. I took her hand and held it. Thanks, I said, for being with me through all of this. I always will be. And I knew she meant it. A year after that, my mother passed away. It was peaceful. She was in her garden, weeding the roses, and she just sat down and closed her eyes. Dad found her an hour later. I got the call from Erin. She was crying so hard I could barely understand her. Denny, she's gone. Mom's gone. I drove down to San Antonio that night. When I got to the house, Erin was on the couch, her face swollen from tears. Dad was sitting in his armchair, staring at nothing. I sat down next to Erin. I didn't say anything. I just sat there. After a while, she leaned into me. I put my arm around her. I didn't get to say goodbye, she whispered. Neither did I. She was the only one who believed in me. After everything I did, she still loved me. She still believed I could be better. She believed in all of us, I said. That's who she was. We sat there for a long time. Me, my sister, my father. 3 people who had been through a war together. Broken, but still together. The funeral was small. My mother had never liked big gatherings. She wanted it simple and quiet. We had a service at the church she'd attended for 40 years. The priest said kind things. The neighbors brought casseroles. Dad sat in the front row and held my mother's rosary. Aaron sat next to me. Claire sat on my other side. After the service, I gave the eulogy. I talked about Mom's garden, about her cooking, about the way she could make anyone feel welcome in her home. I learned a lot from my mother, I said. But the most important thing I learned was forgiveness. She taught me that everyone deserves a second chance, even people who don't deserve it. Because forgiveness isn't about them. It's about you. It's about letting go of the weight so you can move forward. I looked at Erin when I said that. She was crying, but she was also smiling. After the funeral, we went back to the house. People came and went, bringing food and flowers and stories. I stood in the kitchen, drinking coffee, watching my sister help my father. She was different. I could see it now. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't playing a role. She had changed. And I realized, standing there in my mother's kitchen, that I had changed too. I walked over to Erin. She looked up at me. Come with me. I said. I led her into the backyard. We stood in the garden that Mom had loved so much. The roses were in bloom. The bees were buzzing. The sun was warm. I want to say something, I said, and I need you to just listen. She nodded. I forgive you, I said. I've said it before, but I don't think I meant it. Not really. I said it because I wanted to let go of the anger. But I never let you back in. I never trusted you. And I think that hurt both of us. Denny, let me finish. I'm not saying everything is fixed. I'm not saying we're going to be best friends. But I'm saying that I'm willing to try. I'm willing to start over. Just the two of us. No past. No baggage. Just the future. She stared at me. Tears rolled down her cheeks. You really mean that? I really do. She threw her arms around me and hugged me. It was the first time we'd hugged in years. It felt strange and familiar at the same time. I'll do better, she whispered. I promise. I'll be better. I know you will. We stood there in the garden, holding each other, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had my sister back. The years after that were good. Not perfect. Nothing is perfect. But good. Erin stayed in San Antonio. She kept her job at the bookstore. She started dating a man who worked at the library. He was quiet and kind, the kind of man who held the door open and called her when he said he would. She brought him to Thanksgiving dinner, and I watched her laugh with him the way she used to laugh. Claire and I kept traveling. We took trips to the coast, to the mountains, to the desert. We visited Dad every few months. He got older, slower, but he never lost his sense of humor. And Erin and I talked on the phone once a week. Not long conversations. Just check-ins. Just reminders that we were still family, but it wasn't the same as before. It would never be the same. But it was something. One night, I was sitting on my porch, looking at the stars. Claire was inside, reading. The dog was asleep at my feet. My phone buzzed. It was Erin. Hey, Denny. You awake? Yeah. What's up? I just wanted to say thank you. For what? For everything. For giving me a chance. For forgiving me. For trusting me again. I know it wasn't easy. It wasn't, I said. But it was worth it. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I love you, Denny. I always have. I love you too, Erin. We talked for a few more minutes. Then we hung up. I sat on my porch for a long time after that. The stars were out. The night was quiet. And I realized that I was happy. Not because I'd forgotten what she did. I would never forget. But because I'd finally let go of the weight of it. My sister called me crying, saying her husband had kicked her out. I opened my home to her. One night, I came home early and caught her doing something unforgivable behind my back that night. I thought I'd lost her forever. But I found her again. Not the same person. Not the same relationship. But something new. Something that could grow. And I learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing to move forward anyway. It's about building a new foundation on the ruins of the old one. It's about realizing that family is not just about who you share blood with. It's about who you choose to keep in your life. Even after they've broken your heart, I chose my sister. And I'd do it again. What would you do if the person you trusted most became the one you feared most? Could you forgive them? Could you move on? Share your story in the comments. Because sometimes, the hardest thing is the most important thing. And healing is always possible.